Having a marketing strategy is critical in today's business world. The question for many business owners is where to begin. You know, you need to be on social media, but what should it look like? What messages are you trying to communicate? Building your brand is key to your success, but what should the strategy be? Today's guest, Sandra DeNovellis, is a partner for Evolve Strategic Communications. They started Evolve in March of 2020 as a way to meet the needs of small to mid-sized businesses requiring strategic counsel, tactical marketing, and communication services. Since then, they've seen a real need to help companies identify their key differentiators that make up the company's DNA, helping them create messaging strategies that align with their business goals. Sandra has spent her career in technology marketing and sales. She has held senior sales and marketing positions for international software, hardware, and technology firms such as Sprint, Cognos Corporation, Ogilvy One, and most recently, KDDI Telehouse, a $40 billion global Fortune 300 headquartered in Tokyo. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting times and interesting times all at once. I want to kind of jump in here, if you don't mind, and just kind of get things going. You and your business partner, Mindy Gibson, started Evolve, and then 3 weeks later, the pandemic hit.
Yes.
Just insanity for you.
Incredible
I can't even imagine.
Incredible timing. But interestingly enough, it was a great time to reach out and talk to companies because everyone was revisiting their go-to-market strategy. No longer were companies able to do as much of the face-to-face in terms of sales, live events, which are very common in the tech field in terms
Absolutely.
of networking and also selling and marketing. That all went away. So what we did find was that people were super open to Zooming with us in that case. But yeah, so we started the company really focusing on small to medium-sized businesses because we saw that there was a real niche and a real need for guidance, really. I think the biggest mistake that leaders make of small and medium-sized businesses is they will develop a marketing plan before they develop a marketing strategy. And they're really two different things. So a marketing plan is really a roadmap and involves the tactics that you use in terms of reaching out to your customers. So the marketing strategy is more of an overarching goal. So what are your company goals, right? That is really first and foremost what you want to be looking at. What is your unique selling proposition? And that's really when we get into what your key differentiators are. What makes your business different than your competitors? And then really, who is your audience? And really understanding your audience. And you may have a primary audience and a secondary. So you really have to understand who you're talking to because your messages are going to be crafted around who you're trying to reach.
Sure.
And you really have to know your products and services, right? And again, from a pricing perspective and really understanding the features and benefits. Most importantly, you have to understand what you're willing to allocate in terms of budget, right? That's a big one. It's like renovating a house, right? You wouldn't, the sky's the limit in terms of what you might want in your house, but what are you really willing to allocate? And the guideline is really in terms of, and this might be more for a medium and large size company, but about 5%, between 3 and 5% of your annual revenues.
Okay.
Now, certainly if you're just starting out, you're an emerging startup business, you obviously have different guidelines there. But
do you think that's an interesting point though, because you're starting out, you need people to know who you are, right? So you have to put together a strategy. Do you spend more money in the beginning so that people know who you are, or do you not? I mean, what have you guys seen?
That's a really good question. We've seen companies, startups, especially in the AI, artificial intelligence business, that had seed money.
Okay.
Okay, so they were in a position where they could actually allocate a significant amount, let's say, 3% of what they projected their revenues to be in year one. And then we see other firms that are just willing to kind of stick their toe in terms of trying out social media or developing a content strategy to help create awareness through articles, blogs. So there's so much to do, and that's why we feel it's of paramount importance to really sit down with the leaders of the company, whether it's the CEO or the president or the VP of marketing, and really really work in developing a messaging framework initially that it acts as a foundation to inform everything else, right? Inform the behavior.
Sure. So that's interesting. So just for our listeners, so they understand that. So what we're talking about here is, what is your message? What is your short elevator pitch, if you want to call it that? What's the messaging going to be on your website? I'm assuming all these things are the things that you're talking about, Sandra?
Correct. So so ultimately, in the ideal world, you would like an integrated marketing plan where you have kind of a 360-degree approach to your marketing, which could be your website, your content strategy, PR, SEO, search engine optimization, search engine marketing. You may want to look at that. Social media. So all of those efforts working together with a unified message and plan. Ultimately, what we do in terms of our client relationships is developing a roadmap that really keeps the client on track month to month. But most importantly, during this phase, when you're implementing your marketing plan, you really have to set KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. So that's going to be super important in terms of measuring the effectiveness and the success of these programs. And we see, and certainly Mindy and I, and in past companies that we've worked with, or even just with clients in general, that they're so anxious to get their marketing plan out there that they're really not thinking deeply about, well, wait a minute, what are we trying to achieve here? What's our expectation? Because you really want to know that you're getting a return on your investment, right? On your marketing spend. So it really, and that's where it's, certainly we're having conversations with leaders and marketing, but we always want to bring in the sales team and to ensure that there's alignment between the marketing and sales process.
So that's key. That's actually good, because over the years, it was always like marketing did their own thing and sales had to kind of pick up whatever marketing threw out there. So what you're saying is they need to work together, and that would be a better solution for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's very traditional, right? Where marketing was kind of operating in a silo, and sales was out there doing their own thing, and never the two should meet, right? Right. So that has really completely changed. And I think that tools like Salesforce and CRM systems and marketing automation tools like Pardot and HubSpot have really helped create that dialogue between sales and marketing. So you can really track the touch points, for example, that go on from a marketing perspective, whether you're sending an email or you're sending a piece of content to a particular prospect or customer, and really being able to measure the effectiveness of that marketing against that particular prospect or customer. And I think, it's interesting because I came up the ranks in sales. Really, my first job out of college was working in outside sales for WorldCom, in working with corporations. Actually, right around the time that equal access was happening. I'm really dating myself here, Jeff. Here,
That's okay.
but
It's the experience that we want, though. That's the key, right? So,
well, it was the beginning of digital transformation, right, back then. And so companies were really starting to look at telecommunications as a business tool, right? So we were all out in the field and bringing that information back to the marketing teams. And I have to say that that was really the turning point for me. I thought, I want to be more behind the scenes, really doing the analysis and understanding how the positioning really
right.
should work on a broader scale.
Awesome. So, you guys started up in the pandemic, and have you seen a shift in marketing and strategy because of the pandemic? Do you think anything that's jumped out at you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. With live events going away, we see it across the board with our clients, and we have a wide array of industries that we work with: technology, education, nonprofit, legal. So we're seeing more video.
Okay.
We're seeing more companies willing to do panel events, virtual events online. We're seeing less email marketing than I think we did maybe 2 or 3 years ago,
Okay.
in general. And certainly more traditional fields like legal that weren't so aggressive in terms of social media, now really leaning in to that because of the ability to network and create engagement. So
Sure. So with all the different people on social media, your competition's there. What's a strategy that one of our listeners might be able to think about as they're planning this out to separate themselves from their competition?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And again, a lot of it comes down to obviously what your product is, what your service is. But what we've seen a big uptick in is account-based marketing programs. So really looking at those high value accounts that you are looking to engage with. And in some respects, maybe you've had some existing communication with them. So you may want to segment those accounts differently in a high priority versus secondary. However, so from an account-based marketing perspective, coming up with tools that increase your engagement. And you may want to look at marketing automation, you may want to look at LinkedIn, you may want to look at just consultative discovery calls that based on a specific message that might be valuable to the client. So account-based marketing is something that we've really definitely
Awesome.
seen an increase in.
Yeah, and I like account-based marketing. It's almost like Big Brother, though. It's a little scary at times for me, but it is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Hey, what are 2 pitfalls a business should avoid when putting together a marketing plan? We've been talking about the strategy and things like that. Now they're putting together a marketing plan. What are 2 of the pitfalls that they need to avoid when they do that?
I think, again, how do you want to measure success? So there's a number of ways that you can do this. And I think, this is really for small, medium-sized business, less talking on the enterprise level.
Sure.
But so a pitfall could be really just not setting a goal. So for example, do you want to increase your website visitors by 20-30%? Okay, for example, that may be a goal that you want to set.
Okay.
And so again, you have to think about your expectations and your results. I think also, Jeff, is I've seen marketing teams just afraid to talk about revenue, right? So if you know that you, from a sales perspective, are looking to increase this product sale by 20% in 2022, then that information is going to inform all of your decision making regarding marketing. Okay, so again, just setting those goals, making sure that you have a clear understanding of your customer, who you really are trying to reach, and then just making sure that you're tracking everything. Making sure that you're monitoring. There are some tools, or I should say channels, such as public relations, media relations, that is more difficult to track, which I think, you asked what we're seeing the uptick in as far as the pandemic, the digital marketing, because of your ability to really track the effectiveness. So
Yeah, that's a great point, because we can track it all. A few years back, we couldn't track it all. We saw some of the things, and the question was, how much of my website is affecting, my sales, versus how much is the email marketing affecting my sales versus social media. And I feel like we can track that a whole lot better these days.
Right. And the other pitfall, I would say, is you've got to give things time, right? SEO is a perfect example. You've probably seen this in your experience as well. You can't commit to SEO for 30 days and expect that
Right.
your company is going to be on the top page of Google. So you really have to make at least a 3 or 6 month commitment to see results as far as search engine optimization. There's a lot of online and offline tactics that go into the behind the scenes.
Sure.
Backlinking, meta tagging, all of that. I don't want to get too technical, because I know this is a wide audience, but it's a real commitment, and you have to be willing to realize that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the other things that, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but try not to do everything all at once either, right? So, one of the things that I started doing when I started Pull the Shoot was I just start, dropping some things on LinkedIn. And then pretty soon, a little later, I was doing email campaigns. And then a little later, I started this podcast, and, things like that. So I kind of segmented the growth
Right.
for two reasons. One is I felt overwhelmed to try and do it all at once. But two, I just thought it would always offer new things that were coming out there. And, it's been almost 6 months for me now, and I'm really seeing attraction where people are actually, reaching out. My website, is really, visitation has really gone up quite a bit, things of that nature. So it's kind of interesting. But is that something that you recommend? I mean, I kind of did that without, just based on my theories, but, you're the expert. So tell me, what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You should not be doing everything at once. And again, it depends on the size of the company and all of that. But for a small, medium-sized business, we recommend what's really 1 or 2 programs that we want to implement and that we want to measure, and set very specific goals. I mean, I had a client recently who said, I want 1,000 followers on LinkedIn on a new company page. Well, it's been an effort, but they're there. And another client of ours was really looking to create a presence in their specific industry, and in terms of articles and blogs, and really just getting out there as a thought leader in their particular sector. And it took a good 12 months
Wow.
to really get there. Certainly there were activities all the way along, but it just takes time, and people have to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the vein of pull a shoot, how often do you reassess things with clients? Do you actually pull the shoot? I guess let's call it that. And just kind of say, okay, here's where we're at. Do you do it quarterly? Do you do it monthly? 6 months, a year? I'm not sure what the plan should be.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with all of our clients, we usually have at least 2 status calls with them on a monthly basis. But our reporting with them is really on a quarterly
Quarterly?
basis.
Okay.
And we will, there may be a need, depending on something that happens in their specific industry, or a new product or service that they're rolling out, that we may need to shift some of the messaging. I think in terms of branding, that companies, especially in the climate that we're in right now, with so much going on with the pandemic, and even just societal political shifts that are happening, that you really need to look annually at your brand positioning. Something that we've seen so much of in the last 24 months is corporate social responsibility marketing.
Okay.
So, with digital inequities, health inequities, climate change, sustainability,
Yeah.
and certainly in the tax space, all of these messages. This has been a big focus for a lot of companies. Is how do we promote more of our CSR initiatives, and then how do we measure them with more of the ESG, environmental, social governance metrics. So that's become a really important piece, especially for public companies, because there is a lot of pressure now to show and demonstrate what your metrics really are. It's not enough to say, in the data center business, I'm sustainable.
Right.
You really have to show those numbers, and do it in a way that's technical and tied into regular reporting.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
that. Hey, we're about out of time. You and I could keep talking for another hour, I think, on this stuff. I just love the whole marketing aspect of things and the strategy that goes behind it, which is key. But we're going to have to wrap things up. Do me a favor, tell our listeners how they could find Evolve on the website, or how to get a hold of you if they have any questions.
Yeah, so check us out, evolvestrategiccommunications.com. So you can go to our website, and we, generally speaking, are available for discovery calls. Feel free to reach out to us. We love to hear from anybody. Jeff,
Awesome.
sorry. Yeah. So, our
That's
website is the best way to reach us.
wonderful. And I'll put that in the notes for the podcast when we drop this one. Sandra, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to continually supporting each other. And hopefully let's change the world together, right? I mean, there's just so much fun things that we can do. To all our listeners, thanks for listening. Until the next time, stay safe and be healthy.
Thanks, Jeff.